Okay, let's dive into this. We're talking about a piece of music today, but maybe something more, like a sonic ritual.
Yeah, that's the term that caught my eye too. It's about this project called Subharmonia, 53 minutes long, continuous techno-industrial sound.
Right, and the source we're digging into is a post from an entity called TATANKA, dated June 10th, 2025.
Exactly. They announced Subharmonia there.
So our goal for this deep dive really is to unpack what makes this subharmonia thing tick. We want to look at its, the technical side, the AI involvement, and there's this really interesting call for collaboration they included.
All based on what Tatanka actually shared in that post, yeah.
And we should probably mention Tatanka's tagline right up front. It's, well, it looks like symbols, but translates to music meets mission.
Yeah. That music meets mission part definitely suggests there's, more going on than just putting out a track. There's some kind of purpose behind it.
Absolutely. So let's start with the sound itself. What is subharmonia? What does it sound like based on their description?
Okay, so like I said, 53 minutes continuous. It's rooted in techno-industrial music.
Okay.
And the words they use to describe the feel. Things like hypnotic, physical, and, well, industrial, obviously.
Hypnotic and physical. That's an interesting pair. And they get really specific about the sonic building blocks, don't they?
They really do. It's quite detailed. For instance, it's all in the key of G minor.
G minor, got it.
But the really standout thing, I think, is this constant 25 hertz binaural beat. It runs through the entire piece.
The entire 53 minutes.
That's what they state, yeah. And the tempo is locked at 128 BPM.
Okay, that 25 hertz binaural beat, that's very specific. For listeners, just a quick reminder, binaural beats involve slightly different frequencies in each ear, and your brain kind of hears the difference, right?
Exactly. And that difference frequency, here 25 hertz, is sometimes linked to certain brainwave states, maybe gamma waves.
So what do you think the intention is behind using that specific frequency, 25 hertz, consistently throughout something they call hypnotic and physical?
Well, it really suggests a deliberate attempt to affect the listener's state, not just entertain. That frequency range, sometimes people associate it with focus or like higher energy. So weaving that constantly through a, quote, physical industrial soundscape at a pretty driving tempo, like 128 BPM, it sounds like they're aiming for a really specific, maybe intense kind of mind-body experience.
Right, crafting an environment almost. And speaking of crafting, this brings us to the technology involved. AI plays a big part here, according to the source.
It does, yeah. They're upfront about it. They mention using AI, specifically a system they've developed called RDI.
RDI, and what do they say it does in subharmonia?
They say it was used to, and I quote, sculpt binaural layers and sonic modulations.
Sculpt. That word feels intentional, not just generate or add.
Exactly. It implies a level of refinement, of artistry, maybe.
The source even calls it a dance between human experience and machine intelligence. What could that actually look like practically? How might AI help sculpt those layers?
Well, think about it, 53 minutes. Trying to manually create and perfectly sync complex binaural effects and subtle changes over that entire length.
Yeah.
That's incredibly detailed work.
Yeah, painstaking.
So the AI, RDI perhaps, could handle the heavy lifting computationally, making sure that 25 hertz difference is always there, maybe subtly shifting its texture or how it's layered over time. It could augment what a human composer does, adding layers of complexity or precision that would be, well, really difficult or time-consuming to do entirely by hand. It helps achieve that hypnotic effect more effectively, potentially.
Okay, so the AI is like an enabler for this specific sonic goal. But what's really fascinating is that despite all this tech, they don't just drop it and say, here it is, done.
No, not at all. And this is maybe the most surprising part detailed in the post. They explicitly state Subharmonia is not finished.
Not finished. After putting it out.
Apparently not. They're actually inviting composers to collaborate on it.
Yeah.
To build on it further.
Wow. Okay, but not just any composers, right? There's a specific call out.
That's right. They specify mature composers, and they define that as people aged 50 and over.
50 plus. That definitely pushes back against the stereotype that only young people are involved in cutting-edge music or tech stuff.
Totally. It feels like a statement.
Yeah.
They seem to be actively looking for the perspective that comes with decades of experience. The source mentions TATANKA believes creativity has no age.
So they want to fuse that deep experience. Maybe someone knows classical harmony inside out, or has years of jazz improvisation, or just brings a different life view into this AI-infused industrial techno framework.
Yeah, imagine the possibilities there. That blend could lead somewhere really unexpected.
And they make it easy to respond, right? They give a contact point.
Yep, it's right there in the post, info at tatanka.site.
Yeah.
It's a direct invitation for a specific group to jump into what they frame as a living project.
Which kind of raises the question, why? Why bring these particular elements together, the specific sound, the AI, and this age group for collaboration?
Well, if you look at the other context provided in the source material about Tatanka, subharmonia doesn't seem like a complete one-off.
Ah, right. They list other recent projects.
Yeah, things like Lamenta, or pieces mixing tribal drums with neo-jazz, something called future fossils. And it mentions these often involve their AUDI or other AI systems too.
So there's a pattern of using AI, exploring different genres, maybe unconventional combinations.
It looks that way. And beyond just the music, the source mentions organizational bits like Orchestra Americana, herd, council, talent, investors.
Right, and stated missions around things like DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, and the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs.
So putting all that together, Tatanka comes across as more than just an artist or a label. It seems like a structured organization with broader aims.
Yeah, it paints a bigger picture, and subharmonia, with its specific sound design, its AI, its collaborative call, it sort of fits into that ecosystem of, like, purposeful creation.
So if we connect all those dots, the very precise sound design, that tonal 5 hertz beat, the AUDI sculpting, the industrial genre, and then this deliberate age-inclusive invitation.
Yeah.
What does this signal to you, the listener, about where music creation might be heading?
For me, it feels like a really concrete example of, well, convergence. You've got technology, very specific sonic intentions, and a conscious effort to build community differently, especially by valuing experience across generations.
Yeah.
It kind of challenges old ideas about who makes music, how it's made, and even what a finished piece is.
I agree. Subharmonia, based on Tatanka's own announcement, really highlights how these things, specific frequencies, AI tools, and intentional community building, like this call to older artists, are actively shaping music right now. It's not just theoretical.
And if you're curious to actually hear this sonic ritual, the source material does give links.
All right, you can find it on YouTube to watch or listen, and it's also up on Bandcamp.
So you can judge the hypnotic physical description for yourself.
Definitely worth checking out, I think.
So let's wrap up with a final thought for you to consider. Tatanka's project mixes cutting-edge AI, specific sound frequencies potentially aimed at perception, and this call for collaboration across generations.
It's quite a mix.
It is, and it makes you wonder, what new possibilities emerge when we deliberately bring together such different elements, different ways of knowing, different tools? The source includes a quote attributed to Sitting Bull: "Let us put our minds together and see what life we can make for our children." Obviously, his context was vastly different, profoundly so. But that core idea, combining diverse minds, diverse tools, to consciously build something new, applying that even to making music and fostering creative community, feels really relevant to what Tatanka seems to be exploring here, doesn't it? Food for thought.